All right, so what's going on, social workers? Congratulations, you have made it to the end of the term. And I want to say, again, congrats for making it through. You got a lot of information in 7 weeks. And I'd imagine that a lot of it was hard to take all that in. I know that in my practice class, it was a full semester, and even then, it felt like it took a lot. And in my master's, we had 4 full semester practice classes. So if you feel like there's still some information you need to get, that's totally normal. Because even when I finished up my practice, it's like, I just feel like I have so much to learn. You've been provided a foundation, and myself included, we're still learning. And the best way to learn is to practice some of this stuff. So this will be the last video that I send you, which is fitting because everything about this week is about termination. And so termination, to me, surprisingly wasn't as easy as I thought it was gonna be. One thing we have to remember is that the clients that we work with oftentimes didn't have very nurturing relationships. And so you may very well be the first nurturing person that's worked with this particular client. That might be really hard to close that relationship. And so one thing you wanna do is, express why termination is important. And one way I like to do that is to talk about like where we started and where we are today and all the goals that they have completed. If you use any sort of assessment screeners, I like to show them their first assessment and their latest assessment, and that way they can visually see how much their symptoms have improved. And I also like to remind them that even though this relationship is closing, they did the work. And that means that they can go and build meaningful relationships outside of the office. And so if they valued our relationship, you can find, a friend or a partner or a support group that has some nurture, some support, and they're capable of doing that. And it's very important to be strengths-based in these situations. Therapists oftentimes get caught up in the trap of, I'm responsible for this client's well-being, and they still have some sort of stress, and I have to fix it. No, that's not true. We're giving them the strength, empowering them, and they can go and do it. If they need to return, you can provide them with the information on how to return to receive more therapy. So some of the more formal things we want to talk about when it comes to termination are ethics. So ethically, we want to make sure that the patient is safe. And so I like to do a risk assessment, and every establishment has a different way of mitigating or assessing for risk. Or if you're in private practice, it'd be important just to document where they're at. And so oftentimes I'll put in there like, the client has presented with this behavior, they have these factors, and so I'm assessing them to not be at imminent risk, and their risk level is not elevated by any means. That way it's documented in there. And if for some reason they were to find themselves in some sort of crisis, you provide them with resources. Another thing in regards to resources is, what can you hook them up with? So even though this relationship is closing for one reason or another, what are resources that you can hook them up with? So that could be anything from community resources, religious, AA, academic resources, government ones, whatever that is. The more you work in a community, the more you'll become familiar with the resources to hook them up with. So this week, we're gonna ask you to just do a self-reflection. And so, like I've mentioned so many times, like therapy is not so much about the client, it's about you as well. So I hope you learned a lot about yourself and you'll be able to reflect on that. And just one last reminder, please fill out the course evaluation. I am a student. This is only my 3rd time teaching. It's my 1st time teaching this course. So any things that were helpful, please let me know. Things that weren't so helpful or any criticisms, please let me know. It's my goal to improve as much as possible, to teach, and as a social worker. So that being said, this social work community is actually smaller than you'd think it would be. There have been plenty of times where, gosh, I graduated from the University of Utah, and I ran into my professor in Hawaii of all places, and we did a training together. So you never know. So that being said, please feel free to reach out, take my contact information, find me on LinkedIn or email me. We very well might be running into each other down the road, especially if you've got questions about practice in the military. I could speak a lot to what it's like to be a provider in the military, about school, evidence-based, any of that stuff. So that being said, it's been a pleasure to work with you. I hope to work with you soon. And if we don't run into each other, good luck in the future. Next semester, you can anticipate a lot more of this stuff. So a lot of this learning and writing and reflecting, but going out there and practicing is the most important part. So it's been a pleasure. Take care.